I think swearing points to the existence of God and gives some clues as to what God might be like. Hi, I'm Marcus and I've written a short chapter about swearing in my book The God Puzzle. I've also made it into an animated video, but here I want to explore a few more thoughts. Swearing is a really interesting phenomenon. As an article in the Atlantic magazine observed, cursing is perhaps the only vice that's as frowned upon as it is widespread. Or as the comedian Billy Connolly put it, swearing is a nasty. Everybody hates it, but everybody does it for some obscure reason. But I don't think the reason is actually that obscure. I think at least part of the reason is that when it comes to swearing, its offence is its strength, so to speak. Swear words derive their power from the shock of certain cultural concepts. These forbidden fruits are plucked from our lexical garden to be hurled like hand grenades, fired like bullets, or lit up like fireworks in our speech. The fact that certain words are frowned upon is precisely what makes them so explosively potent and underpins our love-hate relationship with them. In the animated video, I mentioned 3 categories of swear words. In his book Swearing, a Cross-Cultural Linguistic Study, Mangus Young lists a few more, saying there are 5 major themes from which most languages draw their swear words: religion, excrement, sex organs, sexual activity, and mothers. The minor themes he identifies include ancestors, animals, disease, prostitution, and death. Linguist Steven Pinker identifies 5 ways these swear words are then used. Descriptively, when a swear word takes the place of a noun, verb, or adjective. Idiomatically, when a swear word is part of a particular cultural expression. Emphatically, when we use a swear word to emphasize a point and add force to it. Abusively, for example, when you call someone a particular swear word. And cathartically, for example, when you stub your toe on the door. Others note that swearing can be used to show solidarity to a particular group. People bond with other vocabulary too, of course, but swearing seems to be a sort of superglue for social cohesion. In fact, scientific experiments have found that groups who engage in conversational swearing experienced increased camaraderie such that they performed better in shared tasks. Maybe that's because swearing increases a sense of informality and emotional openness and connection between members of the group. Or perhaps it's a way of saying, I belong to this band of rebels who dare to wield such dangerous and outlawed words. An aggressive force is certainly a common feature or effect of swearing, like wielding a weapon to make yourself appear stronger, or a cat sticking its fur up to appear bigger, or a dog baring its teeth to seem fiercer. Of course, some intend to do actual harm with their swearing, stabbing and bashing people with these barbed words. Swearing seems to rev up the body for battle, with studies showing it increases our tolerance for pain. Cognitive scientists say that swear words are stored in a different part of the brain to other words. This is evidenced by patients who lose the ability to speak but can still swear fluently. Swearing has been linked to a part of our brain that processes instinctive emotions and reactions. It's thought to be the ancient subrational part, sometimes termed our lizard brain, which is one reason, I think, why swearing can say something important about us. It's the vocalization of a very deep part of our mind. The fact that these words are often used without much conscious thought is a very good reason, in fact, to pay close attention to them. In an interview for National Geographic, Emma Byrne, AI researcher and author of Swearing is Good for You, described swearing as a foul-beaked canary in the coal mine that tells us what our social taboos are. I think she's right. Interestingly, when chimpanzees who had been taught a little sign language were potty trained, they spontaneously started using the sign for dirty in all sorts of creative ways, akin to swearing. Young children do a similar thing. Emma Byrne is probably onto something when she writes, "It's my hypothesis that the combination of learning a language and the excretion taboo is all it takes for swearing to emerge." It's no surprise, therefore, that people use religious words to swear with, since religion provides a rich source of the taboo. Sacred words and ideas are easily kidnapped from their proper context and twisted to new purpose in potty mouths. But it's the prevalence of theistic swearing in an atheistic culture that stands out to me and causes me to think a bit more about it. Or maybe I should say a post-Christian culture. Anyway, the irony is that atheists often sound more religious in their everyday vocabulary than theists, peppering their speech with words like God and Jesus and Christ. The latter two are seen as far stronger, but the fact that the former is considered so mild and used so often makes it even more, I don't know what the word is, disrespectful, derogatory, I'm not sure. It just seems odd to me that in a culture so concerned with not causing offence, no one seems to notice the routine degrading of the object of so many theists' love and devotion. Perhaps most theists don't really mind. I mean, I certainly notice it when people use God's name as a curse word, a name that is probably little more than a mild expression of surprise or sympathy or frustration for some is actually at the very heart of my life and world. That said, I don't personally feel particularly offended by it. Offended means to be resentful or annoyed, typically as a result of a perceived insult, and I rarely feel like that. More sad, I suppose, as well as concerned and a little intrigued. Sad that someone doesn't know the amazing God that I know, concerned that they don't realise the consequences of living at odds with him, and intrigued by the social, psychological and philosophical implications of someone's choice of language. Actually, it can also be a bit unnerving, even scary, when someone swears really violently. Our fight or flight response is triggered not just because the person swearing might themselves represent a threat, but also, according to psychologist Jordan Peterson, because these loud staccato words act like predator alarm calls. When a monkey spots approaching danger, it lets out a short guttural exclamation to warn others in their troop of the approaching threat, perhaps a leopard or an eagle. Which makes me wonder if the use of God as a swear word indicates that he is seen as some kind of a threat. Now, that's probably stretching things a bit too far. What's more certain, though, is that religion is fertile ground for fruity vocabulary. The very fact that it holds certain concepts as holy means they are ripe for verbal desecration. The very fact that theism asserts a God with all authority who commands us not to misuse his name makes it the perfect expression of angry rebellion. The fact that this God is said to have so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life, means the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, has become part of a nuclear arsenal of swear words. While many use these words without thinking, I sometimes wonder if there might occasionally be a dash of deliberate derision expressed in dragging God's name through the gutter in this way. At the very least, this pillaging of the sacred for curse words shows how deeply Western minds are influenced by Christianity and how eager some are to trash its taboos. It should therefore cause us to wonder if there is anything of value under the religious bonnet, as it were, and ask why we are so ready to rubbish it. That's why I think swearing points to God, not perhaps as strongly as some of the other pieces, but does not the phenomenon intrigue you just a little? Is it possible that our estranged creator has become our most common swear word? What staggering irony would be at play if the name given to us for our maximum blessing was used by us as our strongest curse? Next time you take God's name in vain or hear someone do it, why not give it some thought and ponder? Could it be that behind our swear words is an instinctive sense that there is something genuinely precious and valuable being satisfyingly smashed? Could it be that people use certain swear words because they are at some level hostile to God and find some benefit in cheapening his name? If you're familiar with Beatrix Potter's stories, you may remember the tale of Squirrel Nutkin, who took delight in dancing cheekily around the old owl. Belittling Mr. Brown in front of his friends like this must have made the little squirrel feel big and brave. I imagine he became emboldened when no immediate reprisal came and took reassurance in the predator's apparent lack of response. Perhaps he was not to be so feared or taken quite so seriously after all. It certainly seemed that way, at least for a while. Anyway, the prolific extent to which God's name is misused stands out to me quite a bit, especially given his explicit command not to do so. More generally, it's my hunch that the words we use to swear with can reveal what we revere. They can indicate what concepts we believe carry value. As such, they can be signals of significance. After all, what's more satisfying and cathartic, smashing a china plate on the floor or throwing down a handful of grit? Swearing is quite prevalent in many settings. In fact, in one study, the psychologist and linguist Timothy Jay found that about 1 in every 200 words was a swear word, and apparently it's increasing. But don't let your familiarity with swearing stop you from considering its intriguing content. Doing so might just point you to something or someone who is supremely valuable. When that happens, reviling can turn to reverence, cursing can turn to blessing, and profanity can be replaced by praise.